Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English Over Tea. Listen and speak. I'm your host, Anna, and I am actually trying a very floral hibiscus tea today. It's bright red.
And I'm Dan, still sticking with my strong black coffee. I think I've reached a point where I'm 50% caffeine, Anna.
We really need to get you on the tea train, Dan. But before I forget, I have to tell you about my morning. I was trying to record a quick birthday voice message from my sister, right? I'm standing in my kitchen. Everything is quiet. Or so I thought. I finish the recording, play it back, and all I can hear is this thump, thump, thump.
Oh no! Was it a ghost? A very rhythmic ghost?
I wish. It was my neighbor's new treadmill. He must have put it right against the shared wall. The funny thing is, while I was recording, I didn't even notice it. My ears were picking up the sound, but I wasn't focusing on it. It was just there. But when I played the recording back, it was all I could focus on.
That is actually a perfect example of what happens to our brains every single day. We are surrounded by noise, but we don't always process it. And you know, it's funny, this actually brings up a huge point of confusion for my English students. They often use the words hear and listen like they're the exact same thing.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those classic A2, B1 traps. People think, hey, sound is going into my ears, so I'm listening. But it's not quite that simple, is it?
Not at all. It's actually a really big distinction. Think about your neighbor's treadmill. You heard it because your ears work, right? It's a physiological act. You didn't have a choice. Sound just happens to you unless you're wearing earplugs.
Right. It's passive. Sound reaches the ears automatically. It's like breathing. You don't usually have to think about it.
But listening, that's different. Listening is a choice. It's a psychological act. You have to decide to do it.
Exactly. It's an active mental process. It requires effort and concentration. When you played that recording back and tried to identify the thumping sound, you were listening. You were paying attention and trying to understand what the sound was.
That's a great way to put it. So hearing is the ability and listening is the action. You can hear something without listening to it, like I did with the treadmill initially, but you really can't listen to something without first hearing it.
True. You need the hardware, your ears, to be working first. But here's a little tip for our listeners who are working on their pronunciation. Anna, how do most people pronounce the word listen when they first start learning? Oh, they usually try to say that T in the middle, like listen.
Exactly. But guys, listen closely, pun intended. The letter T in listen is totally silent. It's lis-en. You don't pronounce the T at all.
That is such a good reminder. Listen, no T. Now, Dan, there's also a grammar rule that usually trips people up with these two verbs.
Ah, yes, the to. We hear someone or something, no preposition needed. I hear the rain. But when we listen, we almost always need that little word to if we say what we are focusing on. I am listening to the podcast. I am listening to music.
Right. You can't just say, I'm listening music. It sounds just a little bit off to a native speaker. You've got to have that too.
Hey, let's take a quick pause and check in with our listeners. Guys, right now, wherever you are, maybe you're on a bus or in a cafe, what is one thing you can hear in the background that you aren't really listening to? For me, I can hear a clock ticking in the corner of the room, but I'm definitely not listening to it. Well, until I mentioned it. Tell us in the comments.
For me, it's the hum of my computer fan. I totally tuned it out. It's fascinating how the brain works. Hearing is constant. It's a continuous process. But listening is temporary. We can't listen to everything all the time, or our brains would just explode from too much information.
We'd have a total system crash. It's true. Hearing happens on a subconscious level. You can even hear things while you're asleep. That's why an alarm clock works. You hear the noise and it wakes you up, but you only start listening once you're awake and trying to figure out if you can hit the snooze button for the fifth time.
We've all been there. So hearing is the primary process. It comes first. Listening starts after you've heard something and decide to give it your attention.
And that's really the secret to improving your English. If you just hear English in the background, you're getting some exposure, which is good. But to really understand, you have to move into that active listening mode. You have to pay attention to the words, the grammar, and the meaning.
It's the difference between perceiving and understanding. You can hear a voice speaking a foreign language and know it's a human talking, but you aren't listening in a way that creates meaning until you focus.
Exactly. And as we move forward today, we're going to talk about how to actually bridge that gap. How do you go from just hearing English noise to actually listening for comprehension?
I love that because honestly, for many learners, English can sometimes just feel like a lot of noise, right? Especially when people speak fast.
You know, Anna, before we get into the how-to part, I just realized something. We talked about hear and listen in the present tense, but the past tense of these two verbs is actually where I see a lot of mistakes in my classes.
Oh, right, because one is regular and the other is very much not.
Exactly. So for everyone listening, and maybe take a sip of your tea or coffee for this one, the past tense of listen is listened. It's nice and regular. Just add that ed at the end. I listened to the podcast yesterday.
But here likes to be difficult.
It really does. It's heard. H-E-A-R-D. It sounds like the word herd, like a herd of cows. I once had a student say, I heard a loud noise. And it's such a logical mistake to make, but in English, we have to say, I heard.
I heard. Perfect. So now that we've got the grammar hardware out of the way, let's talk about the software. How do we actually get better at listening? Because let's be honest, for an A2 or B1 learner, listening to a group of native speakers can feel like trying to catch rain with a fork.
That is a great image. It's totally overwhelming. And I think the biggest mistake people make, and Dan, tell me if you see this too, is that they try to listen to things that are way, way too hard for their current level. Oh, 100%. They'll go from zero to trying to watch the evening news or a fast-paced action movie without subtitles, and then they get frustrated because they only understand 5%. Guys, that is actually really inefficient for your brain.
It really is. There's this rule that sounds a bit crazy, but it works. You should aim for material where you already understand about 90% of what's happening.
90%. I can hear our listeners now going, Dan, Anna, if I understand 90%, I'm not learning anything new.
But that's the secret. When you understand 90%, your brain isn't struggling to survive. It's relaxed. And because it's relaxed, it can actually focus on that extra 10%. The new vocabulary, the weird grammar structures, or the way the speaker links words together.
It's like building a house on a solid foundation. If you're a beginner or lower intermediate, look for things like children's programs. I'm talking Sesame Street level stuff because they speak slowly and they use a lot of context. If they say the boy eats the apple, you see a boy actually eating an apple. Your brain connects the sound to the action instantly.
Exactly. And hey, listeners, let's have a little fun in the comments. What was your favorite show to watch when you were a kid? Or if you're currently using easy shows to learn English, which ones are they? I personally think Peppa Pig is a gold mine for language learners.
Hey, don't knock Peppa Pig. The articulation is fantastic.
But okay, let's say you found a video or podcast you like, but it's still just a little bit too fast. What do you do?
Well, thank goodness for technology. On YouTube and Netflix, you can actually slow the speed down. You can set it to 0.75 or even zero point 0.5 speed. It makes the speaker sound a bit, well, a bit like they've had too much herbal tea and are very relaxed. But it gives your brain time to process the individual sounds.
It's like slow motion for your ears. And once you can hear the words clearly at a slow speed, you can start to imitate the speaker. This is what we call shadowing or imitation. You don't just listen, you move your mouth and say the words at the same time as the person in the video.
That's so important because listening isn't just an audio thing, it's a kinesthetic thing, meaning it involves your body. When you move your mouth to make the sounds, you're actually teaching your brain to recognize those sounds when other people make them. It's like your brain goes, "Oh, I know that mouth movement. That's the word thought."
Exactly. Now, Anna, you told me about a technique you use called prepping the brain. I love that name. What does that actually look like?
It's basically like doing a little bit of homework before the real listening starts. If you're going to watch a movie or a YouTube clip, don't just jump in. Go to Wikipedia or IMDb and read a summary of the plot first.
Oh, so you already know what is supposed to happen.
Precisely. If you know that Jack is looking for a job because he has no money, your brain doesn't have to work so hard to figure out the story. It can stop worrying about the what and start focusing on the how, the actual English words they're using to tell that story. It's like giving your brain a map before you enter a new forest.
I love that. And you can do the same thing with subtitles, right?
Absolutely. A great strategy is to watch a short clip, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, 3 times. First time, use subtitles in your native language. This preps your brain so you understand the context perfectly.
Second time.
Second time, switch to English subtitles. Now you're matching the sound of the words to the look of the words.
And the third time, no subtitles at all.
You got it. By the third time, you aren't hearing noise anymore. You are listening to meaning. You'll be surprised how much more you catch.
That sounds like a lot of work, but honestly, it sounds a lot more effective than just sitting there feeling confused.
It really is. It's about being an active participant. Instead of just letting the English wash over you like a wave, you're actually diving in and looking for shells.
You and your metaphors today, Anna, but it's true. And one more thing for our listeners, don't try to do this for 3 hours straight. Your brain will get tired and just stop listening and go back to hearing.
Oh, definitely. Stick to 20 or 30-minute sessions. Then take a walk, get some air, or, well, refill your coffee mug, Dan.
Good idea. I'll be right back. But before I go, I want to leave everyone with a question. When you're listening to English, what's the one thing that makes you want to turn off your brain? Is it the speed? Is it the accent? Tell us in the comments, and we'll try to tackle some of those frustrations in the next part.
Great question. We'll be right here when you get back, Dan.
Okay, I am back. Coffee is refilled and I am ready to, well, I'm ready to actually listen now, not just hear you talking while I was in the kitchen.
Good, because we were just getting to the why. Like, why is it that even when we are trying our hardest to listen, native speakers still sound like they're speaking a secret code?
Oh, it's the worst, right? You learn a sentence in a textbook, it looks beautiful on the page, and then you hear a native speaker say it, and it sounds like one long, blurry word.
Exactly. And that's usually because of 2 things: reductions and linking words. Basically, we're lazy, Dan. We like to drop sounds to make things easier to say.
We really do. Take the phrase, I don't know him. In a textbook, it's 4 distinct words, but in a real conversation, we often drop that H. It becomes, I don't know him, or I don't know her.
It's true. And then there's linking. We take words and just smash them together. Instead of how is it going, we say how's it going. Three words become one. It's like a linguistic car crash.
A very efficient car crash. And the classic one, what did you do, becomes what you do. We link the words and reduce the U to a just sound. It's no wonder people get frustrated.
It really is. But here's the thing for our listeners. The best way to crack the code is to vocalize it yourself. If you hear a weird reduction in a movie, pause it. Try to say it exactly like they did. What you do. By moving your mouth that way, you're teaching your brain what to look for. It's like training your ears by using your muscles.
I love that. It's that physical connection again. Now, Anna, we've talked a lot about focusing hard, but you also mentioned something called distracted or background listening. Isn't that just hearing again?
It's a bit of a mix. I call it immersing in input. Sometimes you don't need to be 100% focused. Like, imagine you're taking a shower or cleaning the garage. You can have an English podcast playing in the background.
But if I'm washing my hair, I'm definitely not catching every word.
And that's okay. Your attention is divided, but your brain is still becoming accustomed to the sounds and the rhythm of English. You might hear a joke and think, oh, that was funny, even if you didn't catch every grammar point. It makes English feel natural rather than like a stressful test.
Oh, that is a huge point. Stress. I've noticed that when my students are stressed, their ears basically, well, they close up.
Absolutely. Stress is a total killer for comprehension. When you're panicked, your brain doesn't work as well. But if you're doing something relaxing, like a puzzle, or just hanging out while English is playing, your brain opens up. You have to learn to calm yourself down so the information can actually start to come in.
It's about lowering the urgency. If you don't have to understand every word to survive the moment, you actually end up understanding more. You start to get the gist, the general idea, without the pressure.
Exactly. And that gist leads to something called pattern recognition. If you hear, "How are you?" 1,000 times in the background, eventually your brain doesn't need to translate how and are and you. It just recognizes the pattern, "How are you?" as a single unit of meaning.
It's like music. You don't have to analyze every note to recognize a song. You just know the melody.
I love that. Hey, listeners, we have a challenge for you. Today, try distracted listening for 20 minutes. Put on an English radio station or a podcast while you're doing something boring, like folding laundry or cooking. Don't try to understand everything. Just let the melody of English be there. Then come back and tell us, did you find yourself noticing any words without even trying?
I bet they will. It's like magic when that happens. But, Anna, there is one more thing. What if you're interested in a topic, but the English is just too hard? Like, say I love learning about, I don't know, astrophysics.
Well, if you're an A2 learner, astrophysics might be a stretch, but being interested is actually your superpower. If you care about the material, your brain will work 10 times harder to pay attention.
So interest can actually make up for a lack of vocabulary.
Definitely. If you're watching a sports game and you know everything about the teams, you might only understand 30% of what the commentator is saying, but you'll still know exactly what's happening. You're using your context knowledge to help your listening knowledge.
That is such a relief to hear. You don't have to be a dictionary to follow a conversation.
Not at all. It's about using every tool you have. And as you get more comfortable with the gist, you can start to move back toward that active, focused listening we talked about earlier to pick up the specific grammar and vocabulary.
It's a cycle. You immerse yourself for fun, and then you focus in to grow. I think I'm starting to see the full picture here.
Me too. But you know what we haven't touched on yet? The actual social side of this. What happens when you're in a real conversation and you hear the person, but you realize you haven't been listening?
Oh, the nod and smile technique. We've all been there, but it can be pretty embarrassing.
It really can. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into next. How to use these skills to actually communicate better, especially when things get tricky.
The nod and smile. It's basically the universal survival mode of every language learner, isn't it? But man, it can lead to some really awkward situations.
Oh, definitely. It's that moment when you've heard the sound of their voice, but you haven't actually listened to the words.
You just hope they didn't ask you a question that requires a yes or no answer.
Right. They say, my cat just passed away, and you're there like, oh, wow, that's great, because you weren't actually listening. It's embarrassing.
But honestly, the best thing you can do in that situation, and this goes back to what we said about stress, is to just admit it.
Exactly. We have to lower that internal urgency. When we panic because we didn't understand, our brain freezes up even more. If you just take a breath and say, I'm sorry, could you say that again? You're giving your brain a second chance to move from hearing mode into listening mode.
It's so much better to be honest than to just guess. And you know, a great way to practice this without the social pressure is to take listening tests online. There are tests for every level, from beginner A1 all the way to advanced C2.
Those are so helpful because they force you to listen for specific details, like was the train at 6:30 or 7:15? Did the speaker go to school by bus or on foot? It trains your brain to stop just skimming the sound and start identifying the facts.
I love those tricky questions where they mention 3 different things, but only one is the right answer. Like, I got an 85 in reading and a 90 in writing, but a 92 in listening. If you're just hearing, you might just catch the number 85 and think that's the answer. But if you're listening, you're processing a whole sentence to find the highest score.
It's like a workout for your concentration. And that's really the key takeaway for today. Hearing is a gift we're born with. It's that physiological ability to perceive sound. It happens automatically, even when we're sleeping.
But listening, that's the skill we built. It's a choice. It requires effort, motivation, and sometimes a whole lot of coffee.
Speak for yourself, Dan. For me, it requires a good cup of tea. But you're right, it's an active mental process. You have to decide to pay attention.
And don't forget the golden rules we talked about today to make that listening easier. First, aim for material where you understand about 90%. Don't make your brain suffer through noise it can't understand.
Second, use technology to your advantage. Slow down those videos and use subtitles as a brain prep tool.
Third, get physical. Imitate the speakers. Use your mouth to learn the rhythm and those sneaky reductions like, what did you do? If you can say it, you can hear it.
And finally, balance your life with some distracted listening. Let English be the background music to your day so your brain gets used to the patterns without the stress.
It's been such a fun conversation today, Anna. I feel like I'm actually listening to my coffee now.
Well, before you go have a conversation with your mug, let's do a quick recap for everyone. Remember, listen has a silent T. Hear is passive, listen is active. The past tense of listen is listened, but the past tense of hear is heard, like a herd of cows.
Perfectly summarized. And guys, we really want to hear from you. Which of these tips are you going to try first? Are you going to slow down a YouTube video or maybe try some shadowing while you wash the dishes?
Let us know in the comments. We love reading your stories and your progress. It really helps the whole community. And if you found this episode helpful, make sure to subscribe to English Over Tea so you don't miss our next chat.
Yeah, hit that notification bell. And if you want to test your skills even more, go check out some of the listening tests we mentioned. It's a great way to see how much you're actually improving.
Thanks for joining us today, everyone. Keep those ears sharp and your tea warm.
And your coffee strong. See you in the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.